Welcome into episode number 6 of the Boys Collective right here on 105 through the Fan here on YouTube. Of course, my name is Kevin Gray alongside Super Bowl winning scout and 1/4 of the G-Bag Nation, Bryan Broaddus, on a victory Monday as the Dallas Cowboys get their 5th straight win after beating New England. Bryan, how are you? Good to see you.
Doing well. Happy Victory Monday. 5 in a row right now. A lot of folks happy at the Star and then also happy with a bye week coming around. So it kind of gives you a little break right in the middle of things. Kind of a nice spot, and especially with kind of some of the news we got about Dak Prescott after that game. So a lot to unpack here in the next 20, 25 minutes or 30 minutes as we do this program.
Yeah, the Dak Prescott news with him having a strained right calf at the end of the game, suffering that strained right calf on the very last play of the game, the 35-yard touchdown pass to CeeDee Lamb to win the game. The Dallas Cowboys win their 5th straight. They are now 3 games clear of the Washington football team in the NFC East as they enter into their bye week. They are off this week as they get ready to take on the Minnesota Vikings on Halloween night. They got to come. They beat the Carolina Panthers themselves on the road on Sunday. So both teams will be coming into that game off of a win. For the Cowboys, though, a really impressive win in the sense, Bryan, as we go into our Cowboys-Patriots recap here. A team that faced a lot of adversity throughout the game, some of it, a lot of it, self-inflicted in terms of the penalties that we saw this Cowboys team have, but also in the end, Dak Prescott making enough plays and CeeDee Lamb coming up big, especially as the game went on and into overtime. I thought this team showed a lot of resilience in how they handled themselves, especially as things got really crazy in the fourth quarter, where the pressure and the emotion of the game, I will say, got ratcheted up due to some big plays on both sides. Your overall thoughts on how the Cowboys handled themselves throughout the course of the game that allowed them to stay in it until they were able to ultimately pull it out in overtime?
Yeah, KG, I think the thing with the Cowboys, if you're a fan, and we talked about this going into the game, the matchups, the problems that you potentially can have. It wasn't so much going to be about, I think, New England's personnel, but how their head coach was going to use that personnel, and we said, hey, Bill Belichick is not going to let you run this football. And, for the most part, they really couldn't run the football. They tried, to run some of the similar stuff that we saw last week against the Giants with the pulling of the guards, getting guys out in front. The Patriots, I thought, did a pretty nice job of playing really firm and not giving gaps and not giving up space and not having these areas to run the ball through. In the second half, the Cowboys got some traction running the ball, and they, a little bit more of a balanced situation there. But the Patriots weren't going to let you run. They just weren't. And they were very physical up front. You were not as physical as you needed to be in some areas. And, we've talked about what's gone on with Tyler Broaddus at center a little bit. We talked about what's going on a little bit with Connor Williams, who's played a little bit better at times. You lost Tyron Smith for basically a series, in the game. So this was going to be a matchup. It wasn't so much about just, about big time players on their defense. It was about, can you be more physical than them? And there was some times where this Cowboys front lost. But when they had to protect, when they had to get guys open, it's a lot of the, it's been this way for the Cowboys for all through these 5-game winning streak. It's not always going to be Amari Cooper. It's not always going to be CeeDee Lamb, even though CeeDee Lamb had an outstanding game. But look at the guys like a Dalton Schultz again. Look at a guy like Noah Brown. Look at a guy like Cedric Wilson. Mm-hmm. That was like 11 catches with those guys for over 150 something yards, and that's what this team has been able to do and I personally think this, it might be a whole nother subject, but Amari Cooper is banged up. I mean, he is a banged up football player and he's trying to play through some things. I think it's compromising him on some of his stuff, but he still finds a way to get 5 catches for 55 yards. everybody's doing something to help this football team win on a weekly basis. You could even talk about what's happened with Luke Gifford. I mean, as much as grief as we give Bones Fossil for some of the things that he does, the punt block was a well-designed play. Mention Noah Brown again. Noah Brown comes screaming off the edge. What happens? The personal protector for the Patriots' eyes go to the outside to pick him up. Nobody blocks Luke Gifford going through the middle. Everybody thinks they've got a man, but the personal protector is usually responsible for the first guy that shows. And when he didn't go to Luke Gifford because he thought that Noah Brown was more of a threat, boom, there you go. That's the autopsy of a block punt right there. That's how you do it right there. But this team it's amazing that they could get in long yardage situations and convert. And it's also amazing that they could give up a 75-yard pass at the end of the game that throws everything into chaos. So, it's it's one of those things. If you're a Cowboy fan, it's definitely a roller coaster ride. But, for this time, you were able to overcome the penalties, the turnovers. These are all things that they're going to have to address. And trust me being in a front office situation, I've been there where you have, it's easier to make corrections when you're winning games. Bill Parcells said, hey, when you're winning, that's when you need to be the toughest on these players. When you're losing is when you need to have a little bit more compassion about what's going on with your team. So Mike McCarthy, the staff, could talk about what's going on in the red zone. They could talk about what's going on short yardage. They could talk about what's going on defense. They could talk about what's going on with the blocking schemes. So just a great opportunity. And they got a great victory, in my opinion, at a difficult place to play. I know that's 0-3 in Foxborough, but that's Bill Belichick. That's a friggin' Hall of Fame coach on the other side of the field at a place where the crowd is tough. And you survived it and got a nice win.
I think there was a lot of everything in this particular game on both sides, offensively, defensively, special teams. The Cowboys had their first block punt since week 2 of 2015 against the Philadelphia Eagles with that Luke Gifford block punt. The Cowboys overcame 12 penalties for 115 yards in this game. It just felt like there was some ebbs and flows in this game. And what's interesting about the game to me was, as much as it was tight as the game went on, when you look at some of the statistics of the game, it felt like the Cowboys really could have won this thing going away, maybe by a couple of touchdowns, given the way that they dominated time of possession. At one point, the Cowboys had ran more plays in Patriots territory than the Patriots had ran plays altogether for the game. At one point, the Cowboys had ran 32 or 33 plays inside Patriots territory, where the Patriots only had ran 28 plays for the game. That was the kind of dominance offensively that the Cowboys were displaying. But you mentioned it, some of the inefficiencies in the red zone, a couple of turnovers. One, Dak Prescott threw an interception that was behind Cedric Wilson, which was interesting because on that particular play, they had doubled Dalton Schultz going up the middle.
We knew this, though, KG. We talked about it Friday in our Friday show, which usually leads up to how the game we think is going to go. Bill Belichick mentioned Pollard. He mentioned Schultz by name. And, I asked when this weekend, the Patriots play-by-play man, he was on with this pregame show. And I asked, I said, what do you think Bill's going to do? How do you think he plays this? Who does he take away? And because I asked him to translate for me. I go, you sat in a lot of these Bill Belichick's. If he mentions Schultz, if he mentions Pollard, it's like, oh, no, that's exactly right. If Bill tries to tell you something without telling you something, and they call it the gotta go to guy. And for Dak Prescott, Dalton Schultz is a gotta go to guy. I got a lesson on fantasy football tonight from my son on the way home. He picked up Dalton Schultz and he's like, listen, Dad, he scores points. He scores points like receivers score points, and so, that Belichick knew it's like, hey, I've got to take away this guy down in the red zone. Look what they did with the tight end. The only, when you're talking about the tight ends and how both, how they play, these guys do a great job of getting open, especially like in the red zone. I mean, it's incredible to how their ability, though, these Cowboys tight ends to make plays like that.
It was interesting because with the 2 turnovers in the red zone, those were the couple of plays there that you felt like, well, the one we talked about with Cedric Wilson and the interception, that one that was a little bit behind Dak. The other one, when he fumbled on the 4th and goal play, if the referees had been doing their jobs correctly, Dak Prescott was scored on 3rd and goal. There's no two ways about it. He was across the goal line. The referees missed that one. And that was part of the storyline in this game. Also, several calls really on both sides that were missed by the referees. And I think that's part of what any team that goes into Foxborough feels like they have to overcome, not just the Patriots themselves, but at times they feel like they overcome the refs too. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you this. I mean, when I was involved with the Cowboys, I always did studies on officials. I always wanted to know. I gave Bill Parcells, like, okay, here are my notes for this week. I knew going into this game, and this is a discussion that the great Rick Goslin and I have from the Hall of Fame Network. And Rick charts officials, and he's like me. I mean, he is adamant, and he's telling me about Brad Allen. And he's like, listen, the Cowboys are 1-3 all time with Brad Allen as an official. Or excuse me, 1-4. Home teams are 3-1 this year with Brad Allen as an official.
Wow.
The Patriots, the Patriots were 6-1 with Brad Allen as official. So, these are the kinds of things it's not a conspiracy thing, but sometimes these officials, they get influenced by home crowd. They make calls because of home crowd. And as you mentioned, Foxborough is a tough place to play. I will say this about Brad Allen's crew in this game. He was bad for both teams. Mm-hmm. He really, really was bad. Because there were times where you got called for holding or you got called for this or that, but then they didn't call the fact. Let's be honest, Javon Kearse, on that stop on like 3rd and 1, he jumps off sides. He's in the backfield making the tackle. That should have been an offsides on Dallas. Okay, there's one. Anthony Brown's in coverage in overtime.
That's the one right there.
He's got a hands to the face. Grabbing face mask, whatever you want to call at that point in time, he's got that. That's a call. That's on
3rd, and that was on 3rd down. That was on 3rd down.
That's after Aguilar dropped the ball on 1st down to at least give you a chance.
That's right.
Yeah, to me, Brad Allen's crew. If you lose that game, the officials played a part. But in actuality, that Brad Allen's crew was bad for both teams in that one.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Brown play because that was the one that stuck out to me, especially as the game went on late in the overtime. Because if Aguilar catches that pass from Jones,
might be the game.
Because he only had KZ there with him. And I don't know how good of an angle KZ had to try and get to Aguilar there. They got fortunate on that play alone right there in overtime.
Especially, what was in KZ's mind after giving up him and Diggs don't handle the pass to Bourne. So what's in KZ's mind? Should I come up? Should I get hit? Should I miss? What if I miss? This is going to be a huge play. So, so many things bad could have happened for the Cowboys. And Aguilar can run a little bit. He catches that ball, beats KZ. That thing could be out the gate, and that could be your winner right there.
That is the difference between winning and losing in the National Football League, as you well know.
Exactly.
The margins are that thin. Well, let's talk about some of the positives in this game.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott throws for 445 yards, his 9th career 400-yard passing game, which is the most in franchise history. Interestingly enough, ties him with Eli Manning and Aaron Rodgers for 8th in NFL history already, with the 400-yard passing games that he's had throughout his career already. Just incredible stuff from Dak Prescott and his ability to, again, overcome sometimes his own teammates because, we'll get to him at some point, but Connor Williams in this game, I don't know what exactly was going on with him. He had 3 penalties in the 4th quarter alone, including 2 on one play. That was the holding penalty and the unsportsmanlike penalty.
Right.
Dak Prescott comes back and completes a 24-yard pass to CeeDee Lamb to set up Greg Zuerlein to kick the game, to kick the field goal, the tying field goal to get it in overtime. So Dak Prescott had a lot to overcome just sometimes from his own teammates, and he was able to do it time and time again on Sunday.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, how many times Mike McCarthy even made a joke about it, about his he goes, my 1st and 20 offense is pretty good. I mean, but how many times, this usually penalties like that are just devastating. And to the Cowboys, it's 1st and 20 and you throw the ball to Noah Brown for 20 yards, or it's 3rd and 25 and you throw the ball for 24 yards to get in field. I mean, that just shows you the resiliency of a Dak Prescott, of the team, the way they're able to overcome. If you're the Patriots, you have to be sick watching that tape of how are they completing these passes. And but some of the stuff is like, you wonder what the Cowboys are thinking. Like, example, the end of the 3rd quarter, they don't have to run a play, but they hurry to the line. 5, 4, 3, false start, 63, and you're like, wait, just let the clock run out. Don't. Broaddus gets a penalty for it. Now it's 1st and 15 to start the 4th quarter, and you're going, why? Well, just let the clock run out. Don't hurry. Just get everybody, And that's the kind of stuff you wonder with Mike McCarthy. It's like, attention to details, sideline, or whatever you want to say. You can't just keep getting these penalties where it's 1st and 15, or it's 1st and 20, or it's 3rd and 25. You just can't, especially when, you're making big plays to get yourself in position to score. That's the difficult thing about this. And fortunately for the Cowboys, they didn't lose this game. I mean, they very well could have. They could have lost this game, and when you and I have been having a real bitch session about what's going on. But, fortunately, the positives are they won the football game, and that's the good thing about this.
Well, I think, honestly, Brian, this is part of the conversation now as we continue with this football team going forward here, that the expectations and the way that we look at this football team has to change based on what this team is doing. They are 5-1. 3 games clear of the Washington football team, the NFC East, looking like they're going to win the division. Now the mindset, I believe, starts at to think, okay, they're winning games. How are they winning? What are they overcoming? What are the different things that they have to improve on going forward? Because I feel like if you're someone who is not just a supporter of this team, but thinks that they have real championship aspirations, these are the kinds of things, and you mentioned it today on G-Bag, that these coaches, this staff are having these kinds of conversations, because it's not just about winning games. It's about getting better week over week. And as you said, it's much better to do that when you're winning games versus looking at the critical mistakes that they're making in losses and trying to figure out what needs to happen for there to even get to a point where they're winning games. So I think these conversations are very appropriate given what this team has accomplished so far, but it's also relative to what we think this team can be going forward, for the rest of the season, which I think is important for fans and those who watch this team to really have to understand. At this point
it's those conversations, KG. Seriously, I mean, I've been in those rooms where it's a lot easier to sit down and be critical of the tape when you win, because you go, oh wow, that was a bad play, man. We got to be better doing that, or man, that was bad. And then the next 3 plays, you're like, yeah, look what Tyron Smith's doing to that guy. Oh, look what Zach Martin's doing to that guy. Oh, look at CeeDee Lamb catch the ball there. There's a time and a place where you're like, when you're losing, you feel like you're getting beat down, and the mistakes, it's like the same damn thing every week. And with the Cowboys, if you could get through a game where you're not perfect, that's what it's all about. That was going to be a tough game. On paper, the Patriots shouldn't even been in the same ballpark with you. But you know what? They got a Hall of Fame coach. It's a difficult place to play, and you went up there and got a win despite all the things that kind of went against you.
CeeDee Lamb in this game, absolutely spectacular. 9 catches for 149 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner in overtime. Dalton Schultz, 5 catches, 79 yards, continues to prove to be a very reliable tight end in this offense. And more importantly now, the Cowboys are starting to get healthy. Donovan Wilson made his return. I know he's going to be working himself into this rotation. Obviously, the Cowboys still have to deal with Dak Prescott. Tyron Smith, who had a little bit of an ankle injury, was able to come back in the game. We'll get into that a little bit later. But for me, another positive, Randy Gregory.
Yeah.
Randy Gregory continues to impress, had another couple of sacks on Sunday, at times giving Isaiah Wynn absolute fits on that offensive line. And I think what impressed me most was the power and the ferocity that Randy Gregory played with on Sunday. Yeah. He's played with it at times, but I felt like it took it to another level on Sunday. The hit he had on Jones for the first sack to cause a fumble that Golston recovered. And then the second sack where he just absolutely, the bull rush on Wynn was phenomenal, using that speed to power. And I thought it was great on Sunday.
See, that's what Randy was talking about. He was saying, after, in the post game last night, someone asked him, do you think you surprise people with your power? Because you look at Randy Gregory and you don't feel like you're seeing a very thick, rocked up guy. I mean, but he's got snap in his hands. He plays with leverage. He even said he's got 4 sacks. He says 2 of them I've used just on straight power. He says, I need to develop more of an edge presence rushing the passer. And I'm like, bro, I mean,
that's frightening if that's the case.
But he's got these pressures. He's got these hurries. You knew there was just a matter of time where Randy Gregory was going to have, a game where he's had 2 or 3 sacks. And, that's what's going to, they're going to need him to be that way. They really, really are, because, other than him, we could talk about Micah Parsons, but I'm just going to be honest, KG, watching the All-22, the linebackers weren't great in this football game. If you want to know why,
I thought they were very quiet. I agree.
Why the ball was run at them, it was the Van Der Esch and Parsons, and Parsons had 5 tackles and all that, but it still was like a very quiet game. And so you're thinking, well, maybe Parsons need to be rushing. And some of those rushes that Randy had, Parsons was coming from the other side and was right there. So, there's a lot going on right now. They're trying to get their best groups out there to play. And Randy is really the one that's helping them with the pressures and helping them with the sacks. And hopefully some other guys can kind of come along and elevate their game. We've seen some good things from Osa Odighizuwa. I think you're going to see that. But yeah, it's going to be about Randy and his ability, and he's going to see a lot more double teams. He's going to see a lot more chip blocks. He's going to see wings over on the outside of the tackle, and when he gets around the tackle, he's going to have to deal with a tight end, or a back coming over there. So he knows what's ahead. But when all that's going on, somebody else has got to win to his inside.
Randy Gregory continuing to impress on that defensive line for the Dallas Cowboys. That kind of moves us into our stars of the game. A lot of different folks had a lot of different contributions in this game. If you look at it just from the beginning to the end, what was interesting. So the Patriots scored 2 touchdowns on their first 7 plays. They didn't have another touchdown or score any more points until the fourth quarter. That was kind of the strangeness of this game when you started looking at how things, broke down early on.
They went 19 minutes without a first down in this game. So, there's a lot. There was a lot going on. For all the things that were crazy with Dallas offense, there were some crazy things that happened with Dallas defense. But yeah, for the most part, 19 minutes without a first half. Now, a lot has to do with a rookie quarterback and maybe the offensive line and maybe not the best weapons, but still pretty impressive by the Cowboys to kind of hold them without a first down there to kind of let their offense catch up and get going in this game.
The Cowboys holding the Patriots to 3 punts in the third quarter, I thought was huge to kind of regain some traction and some momentum in that game as you got into the fourth quarter. So you give the defense credit for handling their business there. I guess for me, my first couple of stars, I'm going to start on the offensive side. We talked about Randy Gregory, definitely one of the stars of the game. But CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, again, I think what was most impressive about CeeDee Lamb is that he just lets the game come to him. He doesn't try to force anything. He lets the game come to him. And as the game went on, you could tell he plays with maybe, and you noticed this, I'm sure too. he plays with a physicality that I think is underappreciated by a lot of folks. Because there was a couple of times
the jet sweep on 3rd and 1 where he got 3 yards, and there was a collision at the sticks, and he's bashing safeties and corners to get the necessary first down off the jet sweep. He runs for a slightly built guy. He runs with toughness, and he's not afraid to get in there and block. I mean, he's not afraid to mix it up and chicken fight or whatever he has to do. But yeah, he plays with that physicality that from a slightly built guy, you would go, that's kind of surprising for sure.
Yeah, and he was ultra impressive throughout the game. And as we mentioned, being able to get the game winner in overtime, had some big catches in overtime to get that touchdown set up, and then eventually winning the game. We talked about Dak Prescott and how impressive he was throughout the game. It was funny because I was on the road and I watched the game back a couple of times today. And one of the observations I just kept seeing as I was looking at statistics and things, I said, Dak Prescott looks like he's cooking in the first quarter. I mean, He goes 8 of his first 8 for 98 yards, the touchdown, to Jarwin to get things started. He just looks extremely comfortable in the pocket and really not bothered by much of anything. Sometimes pressure up the middle can still get to him a little bit at times, but for the most part, he looks like he's a man who's extremely comfortable in this offense and running and doing the kinds of things that elite quarterbacks do. And I think he proved that again on Sunday. And his poise down the stretch, his ability to overcome his own teammates' penalties and continue to make throws. I thought the 4th down throw to Cedric Wilson gives Wilson a lot of credit for the acrobatic catch that he made. But to stand in there and deliver that kind of a throw in that moment, I think, again, just speaks to the maturation process of Dak Prescott and where he is now as one of those elite quarterbacks in the NFL at this point.
Yeah, he was outstanding. I mean, the guys I want to talk about for kind of my stars of the game from the offensive side of the ball, you mentioned Cedric Wilson and what he was able to do. Unfortunate that he had the ball ripped out of his hands, there in the end zone. That's a play that Cedric Wilson usually makes. But how many big plays did he come up with in this game? I think it was a 3rd and 14, and he got 13 yards on the play to kind of give him an opportunity. He caught a ball down on the goal line that got him close to where now they didn't cash in, but they got close. Big play down there. You mentioned that 4th down catch on the 4th and 4. I mean, when that ball left Prescott's hands, I thought it was an incomplete pass. I'm like, there's no way in hell he's coming down with this ball. So I love what Cedric Wilson's doing. But listen, I want to give a guy credit that I really didn't think was ever going to be as productive as he's shown. And that's Terrence Steele. This team, if you would have told me 5 weeks ago that Terrence Steele playing in a game, that this team would have been 5-0, I would have bet you any amount of money that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to be the case. And this team has figured out how to help him. He's figured out he's gotten better. When you watch the tape, he physically has gotten better. Are there plays that he gets overpowered on and out of position, out of whack? Yeah, but if you grade him 65 plays, he has 4 bad plays. But those 4 bad plays, like last year, would have been sacks, killer possess, whatever. He did killed a drive, whatever. It hasn't been the case. And, they've tried to help him along the way. He's accepted the help. He's done a really, really, really good job. And the fact that even Mike McCarthy said today, when asked about Lyle Collins coming right back in and starting, Mike McCarthy couldn't answer that question. Yeah, he goes, we'll see. We'll have to evaluate. We'll see where we're at. And maybe there's some coaches and front office guys over there. Is Lyle Collins as good as he's been? He's played 1 game in 2 years, and maybe there's a little bit of a reliability question. Maybe there's a little bit of selfishness questions, and maybe there's a little bit of pissed offness, if that's the right word, by the front office and the coaching staff that, hey, we went 5-0 with your backup playing. And you know what? We're okay with him playing. You could be a future All-Pro or Pro Bowl, whatever, kind of a guy. But right now we're winning football games playing with that right tackle. Do I think that Collins will play against Minnesota? Yeah, I do. But the fact that Mike McCarthy even paused and said, let's check. Let's see where we're at and let him practice and go from there.
Which is interesting because the way that the bye week falls, Collins will now have the ability to really kind of get the reps that he needs, I feel like, to get back into the lineup if that's the way the Cowboys want to go down the road. But you're right.
They won't practice. Yeah, they won't practice.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, they're off. They're off the entire week. And so now it's about hopefully that guys won't go out and do anything stupid, and that's the thing you worry about. That's why coaches, even before the CBA they would practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and give them off Friday, Saturday, be back, Sunday night kind of a thing. You didn't want to give guys a bunch of days off, but now because of the CBA, you basically have to give them the whole week off. Now the Cowboys at 5-1 have earned that right to go and but what happens is now nobody wants to let the team down. Nobody wants to be at Concrete Cowboy punching a DJ in the face or any of that, or driving drunk and then smashing their car in a pole in Frisco. When you're on a team, you don't want to be the distraction when you're when you're rolling along pretty well. So I have a feeling Mike McCarthy has their attention. Let's see if the fact that their attention will maintain, and I think it will.
Before we move to the Broaddus Files here, a couple more guys I want to give a couple shout outs to. I thought Jaron Kearse played really well on Sunday, created a lot of pressure, was able to get a couple of stops in this game that I thought were key. He continues to impress with his ability to be a guy that, look, coming into the year, we thought he was going to be kind of a special teams guy, somebody who just was maybe didn't make the roster at all, but give him credit week over week. He continues to find ways to make an impact on the game, which I think is important, again, for the safety depth to continue to get better. And Jaron Kearse, for the most part, I thought played well again on Sunday. And got to give Trayvon Diggs credit. I mean, the guy, number 7 on Sunday, his second pick six of the year. Him and Rod Woodson, 1993, the only two corners in NFL history with 7 picks through their first 6 games. And the ebbs and flows we talked about a little bit earlier, you get the pick 6 to put the Cowboys up, which feels like a momentum-changing game play that maybe ends things for the Patriots in their day. And then whether it's confusion on KZ's part, whether he gets caught on the double move by Diggs, he's caught on the double move.
Oh, both of them had a hand in the crime. Yeah, that was a 2-person crime right there.
Yeah.
I talked to some members. I talked to some members of the staff over there, and I asked a couple of guys. I said, "Bad eyes for KZ," and my guy goes, "Bad eyes for Diggs, bad eyes for KZ," meaning they didn't see the play. And even Dan Quinn talked about it today in his media availability. He says that the ball was put in a perfect spot to create that thing. There's no way in hell that could ever happen again. And for the Dallas Cowboys' sake, I hope it never happens again. Right. You don't want to go up with a rookie quarterback and him throw one play and go ahead in that football game. So yeah, that was a tough one.
Give credit to Greg Zuerlein for bailing his teammate out to get into overtime. Well, let's go into the Broaddus Files here before we conclude our episode today. And I want to get your thoughts on this to start off with, Brian. So the Cowboys, and look, ultra aggressive, I guess, to start off in the game. McCarthy goes for it on 4th and 1 on his own 34. They don't get it. 3 plays later, the Patriots score the touchdown to go up 7-0. Did you like the call at the time, or was it a little bit too early to be that aggressive to try and chase, a drive that early on? Or was it trying to set a tone in your mind based on what you saw?
I think, McCarthy has been very aggressive on these 4th down calls. The problem I have with it, and there's 2 things here. If you're playing the Patriots and Tom Brady's the quarterback at New England, go for it. Just try. You've got to play the game with an unorthodox style. You can't kick field goals. You got to take chances. You got to make things happen. I think Mike McCarthy learned this lesson in Tampa. 4th and 3, on the goal line, kicks a field goal. When you're playing Tom Brady, you can't leave him time. You got to go for points. If you get beat, then you say, "Hey, we were playing against the all-time great. What are we doing here?" I mean, we're trying to win this game. I think it was too early. I didn't like the call initially because, again, the Patriots don't score a lot of points. They hadn't scored a lot of points coming into this game. They were right at that 16, 17, 18 mark of scoring points. Their quarterback had thrown 5 touchdowns through all their games. So he's a rookie quarterback too. He's making his 6th start. Punt the ball. Brian Anger has done a great job of punting the ball, directional punting. Punt him down inside the 5 or 6 yard line, and let him try and drive the ball 96 yards on you or 95 yards on you. You know, I'm betting he's not going to do it because Randy Gregory's going to get a sack or Diggs is going to pick off a ball or something's going to happen where this guy now. They had a drive where a 13-play, 75-yard drive, and they just ran the ball down your throat. But that early in the game, no, I'm not giving a rookie quarterback a short field to work with. And especially when the first run of the game for them was for 20-something yards.
That's right.
Now you're in field goal range. And, you know, it was real simple. I mean, it was really simple for him to get those points because of the way, you know, the short field and all that. So, KG, I absolutely hated the call. But if you're playing against a Tom Brady or a Drew Brees or a Pat Mahomes or any of these other guys from history, and you want to play that way, go for it. Because if you punt them in 3 plays, they're already going to be where you're going to give up the ball potentially. This kid, I don't think that was going to be the case.
And you touched on it. You started to touch on it because that was when I wrote my notes down. I said, I don't want to give a rookie quarterback that kind of confidence that early on inside his own territory. First play goes for 21 yards for Damian Harris. And now you're off to the races and you're giving this young quarterback confidence that, hey, maybe I can have a chance to win this game. Yeah. And I thought that was a little too early to try and make that a play. And as you mentioned, put him down deep, pin him deep, and let's see what the rookie does and see if he can make some plays. Because one of the things that he hadn't done really going into this game was challenging teams down the field. So I would like to see if McDaniels and Jones are willing to try and make things happen down the field, but you made it too easy for him, I thought.
Yeah, I think maybe you get a stop there and they punt the ball to you, and now you're on their 48 going in. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Other notes and takeaways from you, Brian, that coming out of this game as they go into their bye week that stood out to you based on your observations from the game on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I'm just hopeful for the best in the week off for Dak and that calf. I mean, let's be honest. You know, Michael Gallup has had a calf injury since week 1, and he hasn't played in 5 games. So I mean, you just hope. I mean, and all indications are everything's going to be fine. My gut feeling is that Dak Prescott will get treatment 24 hours a day. You might even have a trainer live with him, give him treatment at home while he's sitting around watching the football games or whatever this weekend. But that's my hope. I mean, I don't want this season to be derailed because Dak Prescott misses the Minnesota game and then he misses the Atlanta game, and now you maybe have lost one of those games. You lose that momentum. The health of this team, I was really glad to see Tyron Smith come back, even though I'll say this, with the right tackle, did a nice job coming in for him. I mean, that's
Nseki, yeah.
Nseki, I mean, sometimes that's difficult. Nseki has been out for 2-3 weeks because of dehydration problems. So you're wondering, how strong is he? Is he okay? I mean, they're not going to put a hurt guy out on the field, but you wonder, like Nseki, I'm going, oh, that doesn't bode well. But yeah, just to my point, to finish the files, this week will be good for guys to get away. But if you need treatment and time to heal up, take advantage of all those things this week. You can. It's a beautiful training facility over at the Star. If it means going over there for a couple hours and getting yourself right, get yourself right, because this team's got the potential to have something special if they could just keep this thing rolling the right way.
2 quick notes for me before we get out of here. I think, one, the interior of the Cowboys offensive line, to me, is still a concern. Broaddus at times had some issues inside.
Well, Williams had more issues. Williams had more issues this game than Broaddus did. Yeah.
Yeah. I was to say, and I don't know what was going on with Connor Williams from a penalty perspective. look, I know Devin Godchild's a good player. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not taking away.
Well, him and Guy, they're big bodies.
Yeah,
I mean, those are big bodies. Yeah. Yeah.
But I thought Connor Williams did not play great
No.
on Sunday at all, which is still a little bit of concern when you think about that center position and what you got going on at left guard. And then for me, the run defense. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, the rookie from Oklahoma, they were able to get some chunk plays in the ground game. And I think that's still a little bit of a concern that has to be shored up as the season goes on for the Cowboys if they want to have those real championship aspirations that start going on into the.
And they caught a lot of blocks. That line caught a lot of blocks. And, all of a sudden now you're catching blocks and guys and the linebackers are fighting blocks. And wasn't a really great game. I mean, the tackles, like I told you, we'll say Parsons with 5, Vander Esch. But man, I think as a whole, Cowboys just did not play with the physicality up front. And, here come the Vikings, with their
Dalvin Cook. Yeah.
Dalvin Cook running the ball. And, in his game of, I think he had 140 yards against Carolina this week, about 5 yards a shot. They're handing the ball, and then Mike Zimmer's old school guy, they might hand the ball to Dalvin Cook 50 times in this game and see what happens,
Because he went for 29 and a $140 against the Panthers on Sunday.
You got to be ready. Got to be ready for sure.
Well, the Cowboys are off this week as they get ready to take on the Minnesota Vikings on the road on Halloween night. Hopefully for Dak Prescott, that calf injury will be just fine by the time they get to Minnesota, and also the same for Tyron Smith's ankle, because you need big number 77 to help and protect number 4 back there. You can find the Boys Collective on 105 Through the Fan on YouTube. Make sure you look at it on 105throughthefan.com, all of our social platforms, and make sure you subscribe to 105 Through the Fan here on YouTube to get that notifications when the episodes drop. We will be back on Wednesday. The Cowboys are off, so we'll get you your news and notes for America's team as the week goes on. And hopefully the Cowboys stay out of trouble between now and the time they get to Minnesota.
No police reports, boys. No police.
That's right. For the Super Bowl Witty Scout, Brian Broaddus, 1/4 of the G-Bag Nation. My name is Kevin Gray. This has been the Boys Collective, episode 6. We'll talk to you on Wednesday right here on 105 Through the Fan on YouTube. Brian, good talk, man. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Sounds good, KG. Look forward to it.
Appreciate it.